Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. On today's show I have the pleasure of meeting with a writer, a political activist, a former fighter for the resistance and a survivor also of Buchenwald, an ambassador of France, and a militant of a number of different lost causes over the years. Stéphane Hessel, thanks ever so much for being our guest.
Thank you.
Today. Now, of course, at the age of 94, your life, your story is very much the story of the 20th century. You have lived through its horrors, and yet you say today that you are carried by the audacity of hope. Where does that hope come from?
It comes from the fact that having lived that very long life, I have experienced problems that seemed insoluble, that seemed terribly difficult to surmount. Stalinism, Nazism, apartheid, decolonization of our great empires, all that seemed terribly difficult, and yet we achieved. We even achieved bringing together Europe. When I think what Europe was when I was a young boy, it was a place of fight, and it was the beginning of terrible fights. Now Europe is coming together, not yet as much as I would wish it to be. And I'm a little unhappy about the way the United Kingdom reacts to Europe. But never mind, even that is going to be overcome, and we're going to have a strong Europe. That means that problems that seem intractable are soluble. And so are our present problems, not only the problem between Israel and Palestine, which is one of those that I'm particularly anxious to see solved, but also the big, major problems of our Earth, our planet, which has been destroyed by humankind during the last 2 centuries in a terrible way. And we now feel that if we don't change that, it will be no longer possible for the 9 billion human beings to live on it. And also the problem of great, great poverty, close to immense riches held by 1% of the population.
Which is, of course, the subject of the book that has caused so much controversy, so attracted so much attention over the last few months. It is a call to arms, really. One can call it a call to arms, a call certainly to get people to be more indignant about what it is they're seeing around them. It's resonated. We've seen people occupy Wall Street. We've seen them occupy London, Madrid, the Arab Spring. Your book was seen in the hands of Tunisians at the time of their uprising. Why do you think that the book, The Call, has resonated as much as it has?
Our world is ridden by anxieties stemming from the way capitalism is being deregulated and the earth is being attacked by humankind. So therefore, this idea that there is some outrage about has struck not only my own country. I thought at first that this little book would interest French people and be related to the French resistance. And now it is all over the world, in South Korea, in Argentina, and not to speak about Poland or Portugal. And that means, in my mind, it means that our society is somewhere very fragile, and we feel that it has to be changed fundamentally if we want to have a possible society of which we can be proud.
It is not the danger of these movements that one can understand the sense of outrage, one understands what they're against, without necessarily being able to explain what it is they're for, yes. And that necessarily it is more than of a moment than it is a movement.
Absolutely, and the criticism aimed at me frequently to say it's no use to be outraged or indignant. It's the work that one has to do which counts. Quite right. But even my little book speaks about what should be done. And then after that, another book has come out now, which I've written in conjunction with Edgar Morin. It's not yet translated into English, but it may be. And we call it The Way to Hope. Indeed, I am also confident. I know that our problems are at least as difficult to overcome as were those in my own youth of the war and the decolonization. but they also can be overcome. I'm confident. And when I look particularly at the young generation, I feel that they are in a mood for change, that they're happy to be asked to find that they're outraging, that they're indignant, and therefore they want change. And I think they will be able to get us to a better world.
How can those movements, those very strong feelings that we've seen expressed on the streets of the capitals that we've mentioned, how can those movements then be translated into politics? We've seen the Spanish elections held. The indignants of Spain didn't play much part in the political campaign. The right took power. How can the movements be translated into something more long-term that can really weigh on the political systems, that can be translated into something more concrete than the movement itself?
That is absolutely the real question, and I have no definite answer to it. I can only say that the way the young generations behave in many countries now means that they are not anymore trusting the existing political parties to play the role that they would like them to play. They think about something more worldwide, more something like ATTAC was a few years ago, a worldwide movement of indignation and of desire for change. I'm very happy to have been able to write a second little book called The Way to Hope, together with the great sociologist Edgar Morin, who is well known also all over the world, much more than I am. But both together, I think we can show that there are possibilities, distinct possibilities, if only people took it up to their, that they engaged themselves into changes brought to the economy, to have a social and solidary economy more than a profit economy, and particularly ecologically to bring to bear new renewable energies, a better way for the drinking water to be preserved, a thing on which Danielle Mitterrand, who has just left us, was particularly anxious to find solutions. So I am confident, and I believe that the young generation can be courageous and self-confident, and that is what we now need, we the very old ones.
One of your great causes, of course, has been the Palestinian cause. You've been the subject as a result of a number of not just criticisms but attacks against you about the positions you've taken about Israel's attitude towards Palestinians. Were you surprised by the virulence, by the vehemence of those attacks? Were you surprised by how personal it became?
I was not surprised. I expressed myself in this little book more aggressively, perhaps, than others, about the way that the Israeli government is really, to my mind, being treacherous towards what Judaism should be and could be. I'm very unhappy about that, particularly because I have a great friendship, I feel a great kinship to the Israelis. I would like them to have a government that will give them the role that they can play in the Near East with partners in the Palestinian area. And therefore, I can find myself treated as an anti-Semite, which is stupid, but I do have the hope that my Israeli friends, and I have many who are in the opposition there, will prevail sooner or later and will allow Israel and Palestine to work together as two partner countries should. We have learned, we French and Germans have learned to work together after many decades of fight. And now we constitute the basis of a new Europe. And I would wish Israel's government to behave quite differently and to become partner to a Near East of harmony.
Your personal political journey is almost in the opposite, the inverse to what most people's are. People tend to get more conservative with age. You've become, it seems, more radical. Yours were humanist engagements. You joined the Socialist Party in the 1980s at the time of François Mitterrand. You've since then stood for Europe Écologie, the green lists in regional elections in Europe. You seem to get more radical. all the time. Do you still have faith in our political systems? Do you think that young people today can engage with politics through traditional means or not?
No, I have remained a definite Democrat. To me, democracy is the best way of government. Churchill used to say, it's the worst except all the others. And I believe also that we need democracy and non-violent democracy. If I appear to be more radical today than I was 20 years ago, it is really because I feel the urgency of the problems that beset us now. 20 years ago, I thought it was proper to be in the Socialist Party and to hope that the socialists would win the elections. Nowadays, it is not only that. Of course, I wish the socialists to win the next elections in France, but I feel much more strongly that we need the combination of the green and the red, or the pink. And we need that in all European countries, particularly in Germany and in France, because capitalism and neoliberalism is leading us into a wall. We feel that through the crisis that we've lived through these last years, and it's not getting better any day. So it is urgent. And when one feels urgency, one becomes radical.
Stéphane Hessel, thank you ever so much for having been our guest today. That brings us to the end of today's interview. We'll be back, though, with another here on France 24 very soon. Do stay with us.